Navigating Cultural Complexity, Perspective on Language Teaching in an Interconnected World. That's my name, and everyone would like to contact me, you can contact with my email. The next slide, please, sister. Well, I'll be covering several key points as you can see on the slide here: background and fundamental concept of navigating cultural complexities. Following that, there are challenges as well as ethical approaches to language teachings. Then I'll go with strategies for enhancing cultural sensitivity. And finally is conclusions. Next slide, sister. So my background rests on two foundational aspects: the impact of globalizations on language educations and the ethical dimensions that emerge when addressing cultural complexities. Moving to the first one, globalizations and language teaching, you can see on your screen. Globalizations, I do believe that everyone agree with that. Globalizations has drastically reshaped how we approach language teaching, especially for English, which now functions as a universal bridge across cultures, business, academia, and more. In this context, teaching English has grown to mean more than just language. It's now about fostering cultural awareness, communication skills, and intercultural sensitivity. So here's how these complexities unfolds. First one is English as a connector and a dividers. I mean, like, while English brings people from diverse backgrounds together, its dominance can overshadow or even harm local languages and cultures. Language educators are tasked with finding the right balance, not only teaching English, but also fostering an appreciation for diverse cultural identities. So students learn to connect across differences without diminishing their own cultural roots. Moving to balancing standard English with local varieties, English takes on many unique forms worldwide, from British and American English to South Asians, Africa, and other localized versions. So teaching English in a globalized world means respecting these variations and their cultural significance. So for us as English teachers are increasingly aware that a standard English might be practical, but it should not override the legitimacy and richness of local expressions of the language. Point number three is cultural contents in the curricula. Ladies and gentlemen, a modern language curriculum that aims to prepare our students for a global world must incorporate a range of cultural perspectives. So teachers now emphasize culturally inclusive materials. We exposing students to various norms, various histories, and various viewpoints. So this approach helps students develop not just language proficiency, but also global awareness, enabling them to navigate cultural differences gracefully. Last but not least, in this part is digital and media literacy. In an age dominated by digital media, language learners are exposed to numerous cultural representations and narratives, often influenced by biases and sometimes stereotypes. So, like us as educators, we play a crucial role in equipping our students with media literacy skills, empowering them to critically assess informations, and we try to navigate cultural complexities in a well-informed way. The next point is ethical implications in navigating cultural complexities. It means that navigating cultural complexity also demands a strong ethical foundations. Language educators serve as a cultural guides, and with that role comes a responsibility to treat cultural diversity with respect and also integrity. So here my point is avoiding cultural impositions mean that teaching a language often involves introducing aspect of a cultural, but it's essential to avoid making one culture seem superior or the default. Instead, educators must approach cultural elements thoughtfully, validating students' own backgrounds and creating a classroom where all identities are equally honored. The second point is ensuring equality and inclusions. I mean, in this part is the opportunity to learn English is often tied to greater socioeconomics access and ensuring equitability access to quality language education is an ethical imperative. So teachers must recognize any structural barriers that may prevent certain students from fully assessing learning as resources and work to create a more inclusive educational environment. So especially for those from undeserved communities. I think it happened because Indonesia, English in Indonesia is not second language like Malaysia or Singapore. So we use English in Indonesia as English as a foreign language, not a second language. So that's also challenging. The third point is challenging stereotypes and biases. So, brothers and sisters, learning a language in a multicultural environments mean students and teachers alike are exposed to potential stereotypes and cultural assumptions. I have many friends in India, and I also know you have a plethora culturals and also the language. I learn a lot about your culturals, your norms, so on and so forth when I'm living in abroad in New Zealand. So that's why I know we have a cultural authentically, and it can help students recognize and challenge stereotypes, encouraging a more informed, open-minded overview. I mean, like word view. The next point is fostering ethical intercultural communications. It's I believe that as educators, even we are living in non-native speaking countries, when students learn a language, they are also learning to communicate across cultural divides. This involves more than fluency. It's about showing respect for different traditions and viewpoints. So, language educators must model and teach respectful intercultural communications, encouraging students to engage with diverse perspectives in ways that are empathic and also culturally sensitivity. So the last one is empowering students' voice in this part. Students bring their own experiences and cultural backgrounds to the learning process. And like us as educators who value these voices, make language learning a richer experience. So this shift creates a more balanced classroom dynamic where students feel encouraged to share their own stories, their own perspective, and reaching everyone understanding of language and cultures. So moving to the next slide, sister. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Slide number five, slide five, page five, please. Okay, let me continue. Uh, Five, I think this is seven, yeah? Five is no, yep, yep. We're talking about fundamental concept in navigating cultural complexities. This approach to teaching language recognizes the significant role of cultural and encourages dynamic engagement with how students learn, how the student adapt, and how the students apply language skills in diverse cultural settings. So, online brother and sisters, here's a closer look at three central ideas: cultural relativity, translingual practices, and critical pedagogy. When we are talking about cultural relativity, acknowledge that language is deeply intertwined with culture, with each language shaping and being shaped by unique word views. Teaching through a culturally relative lens helps students appreciate how language encodes cultural more prominent and in one language than in another. For example, Effendi Kadarismans in 2023, he researched from his research he highlight that some terms carry meanings unique to their cultural context. So it's offering learners not just vocabulary but insight into the values and experiences of the cultures. So this approach encourages students to see language as a living expressions of cultures and also developing cultural awareness and linguistic empathy. So, what about translingual practices? Translingualisms views language as a fluid system that adapt to cultural and social contexts. So, it reflecting how multilingual people naturally blend or alternate languages in a real world communications. So, by integrating translingual practices, educators can dismantle strict language boundaries and encourage students to navigate multilingual globalized settings. Approach is particularly effective in preparing students for intercultural interactions where language blending or where code switchings, like maybe Indonesians and English or Tamil to Hindi to English, something like that, and contextual adaptations are common, as illustrated by recent studies. I already put the references like more in 2024 and Breivik in 2023. So such teaching encourages students to embrace flexibility and innovation in language use, so fostering genuine intercultural communication skills. Moving to critical pedagogy in language teaching promotes critical thinking about power, about representation, and cultural assumptions embedded in language. So instead of treating language as natural, the, this approach challenges students to engage with content that reflects diverse perspective and to question stereotypes or to question biases they encounter in language materials. So, I have read that Holiday in 2023 and Resagers 2021, they emphasizes their research about the critical pedagogy prepares learners to think deeply about cultural complexities. So it empowering the student to understand the social political dimensions of a particular language. In this case, is English. So this approach nurtures students who are not only linguistically proficient but also culturally and socially aware. So we equipping them to communicate responsibly and inclusively in diverse settings. So to sum up, in combining these concepts, language teaching becomes a powerful tool for fostering cultural awareness, critical thinking, and communication skills that are crucial in today's interconnected world. So, this holistic approach creates a classroom experience where students not only learn a language but also engage meaningfully with the cultures that shape it. The next slide, please. Okay. To effectively tackle the challenges in language teaching, particularly in today's culturally diverse and interconnected classrooms, it's essential to address three key areas. I make it is the first is stereotyping and miscommunications, next power dynamics, and the last one resistant to change. So each presents unique obstacles, but also have opportunities, I would like to say like that, for improving how languages are thought and how languages are understood. Stereotyping and miscommunications. What is the challenges? Okay, the challenges is stereotypes about linguistic abilities and cultural backgrounds can create barriers to genuine interactions. So these assumptions may limit students' potential and stifle open cross-cultural exchange, which are vital for language learning. So what about the impact? The impact, of course, when cultural miscommunication arise from stereotypes, they disrupt the flow of the classrooms and hinder authentic expressions as students may feel pressures to conform to expected behaviors or abilities. That's also one of the research from Abraham in 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, in 2020. So like Indonesians, I think India also, like because I have a lot of friends in India. When we chit chat together in one place, and then we have a senior in front of us, we just keep silent. We try to bow our, what we call it, maybe shoulders or something like that. It seems like Indonesian. So it's totally different when I teach in, yeah, expatriate classes. Like in Americans, in Indonesians, so on and so forth. So there, that's arise from stereotypes. So the solution is to combat this. For me, based on my empirical experiences as educators, can focus on building intercultural communicative competence and enabling students to navigate and challenge cultural biases actively. So this approach foster a more inclusive and supportive learning environments. Moving to power dynamics, the challenge is power imbalance in the classrooms can limit students' engagement and hinder active learning. I think all of you have feel the same situations like this as teachers in non-native speaking countries. Yep. In many settings, teachers hold an authoritative role which can conflict with creating a collaborative and student centered atmosphere. So the impact is non-native English speaking teachers may also encounter additional challenges in establishing authority and fostering a balanced dynamic. So especially in environments where differences difference to authority is strong. The solution that I can offer to my issue is adopting egalitarian, so student-centered teaching models that empower students to take ownerships of their learning can help mitigate this power dynamic. Such models promote a balanced learning environments, encouraging participations and also engagements. So what about resistance to change? Resistant to change, the challenge is many educational systems remain tied to, I would like to say, traditional methods, yeah, making it difficult to integrate more communicative and interactive language teaching practices. This resistance can stem from teachers, from institutions, and societal expectations. So also it has impact, yeah. The impact is emphasis on standardized testing and exam preparations often discourages a focus on practical language skills, leaving students less prepared for real world communication. So the solutions is, I do believe that education reforms that prioritize student centers communicative approaches over rote learning can shift this mindset, emphasizing practical language skills rather than the test preparations, aligns teaching in with demands of today's globalized world, helping students develop through communicative competence. So For me, addressing these challenges thoughtfully can reshape language education to be more inclusive, to be more interactive, and reflective of our cultural diversity. So,
Dina ma'am, Dina ma'am, you are not audible. Dina ma'am, Dina ma'am, Dina ma'am, Dina ma'am.
just pop up in my mind. I would like talking also about culturally responsive teachings. When we are talking about the culturally responsive teaching, it means that the core idea of culturally responsive teaching is culturally responsive teaching integrates students' backgrounds, values, and also cultural identities into the language learning process. So, by using students' cultural references to frame lessons, as a teachers, we make learning more relatable and impactful. So the positive outcomes is our students are more likely to engage and feel seen when their cultural backgrounds are respected and represented. So this approach foster a positive learning environment where students feel a sense of belonging and are motivated to contribute uh, and participates. So um, there, when we do research, there are a lot of questions how to apply it. Okay, so the teachers can select learning materials and select examples that reflect students' experiences as well as a cultural context. So adjusting teaching styles to better align with diverse learning preferences and creating classroom environments that actively celebrate cultural diversity can make learning more effective and learning more inclusive. So here, mm, also there are empathy and ethical listening. Uh, the core idea about empathy and ethical listening is focus on understanding students beyond their words by listening carefully to their experiences, to their challenges, and to their perspective. So, this practice encourages openness and helps teachers address students' unique needs with care and respect. Because sometimes, as a teachers, we are talk active, in front of the class, but we sometimes as a teachers we forgot that we have two ears and one mouth. It means listens everything from your students. Yeah, because it also can help us as a teachers to address students unique needs with care and with respect. The practicing empathy in language teaching builds strong teacher students connection, teacher and students, or among the students. So it helps create safe environments where students feel comfortable expressing themselves and learning from mistakes. So this supportive atmospheres is key to overcoming cultural misunderstanding and and enhancing mutual respects. So wow, is I hope you can hear my voice, brothers and sisters online, because my place is heavy raining. Yeah. So in here is, I would like to say, enhancing cultural sensitivity in language education also requires approaches that actively build awareness, actively build respect and cross-cultural understanding in students and teachers alike. Maybe one day we can have a lot of chit chat, not like this, more semi-formal, so I also know about your empirical experiences related to cross cultural understanding. What about in your school or your university? Is there any cross cultural understanding courses or not? So it also can give a powerful strategy for us. So we can share maybe next time, yeah. Maybe Sister Sabita Priya will have not a not like the it's a good sister. It's slide number 8. We can talk more active and do a research together related with this. Talking about intercultural competence trainings, the purpose is provide students and us as educators with skills to navigate cultural differences thoughtfully and respectfully. So it involves building awareness of one's cultural biases and broadening perspective to appreciate other cultural viewpoints. So how it works, you know, that training can include activities like role playing, case studies, and simulations that reveal common cultural misinterpretations and encourage open dialogue about differences. I really like doing research like this. This exercise help teachers and students reflect on their own assumptions and develop a deeper understandings of diverse perspectives. So, what about the impact? Educators like us and students with intercultural training feel more equipped to work within diverse classrooms and communities and creating learning environments that values inclusions and empathy. Turning to learning, collaborative learning creates spaces where students from different backgrounds work together on talks, fostering an appreciation for cultural diversity. So, Lee and Kim in 2022, they did a research and they proposed that this kind of the strategy enrich language learning as students learn from each other cultures knowledge and viewpoints. So teachers can implement group projects, discussions that bring students together to complete tasks or tackle language based challenges. So, collaborative activities such as shared storytelling or group presentation naturally encourage students to learn about each other's cultures and perspectives while improving their language skills. So, moving to community engagement, the purpose of the community engagement is allow students to practice language skills in a real world, culturally diverse settings. So this approach brings classroom learning into authentic contexts where students can engage with different communities while enhancing their language proficiency and cultural understanding. So, of course, the impact is community engagement deepens students' cultural insights and reinforce language learning through real interactions. So, it allows students to develop a well-rounded understanding of diverse communities. So it also helping them become more emphatic and globally aware. So I would like to sum up in this slide. My sum up is by incorporating this strategy, intercultural competence trainings, collaborative community engagement, uh, these strategies is language educators can build a culturally sensitivity classroom environments that equip students to thrive in a globally connected world and encouraging empathy, respect, and cultural adaptability. Next slide, please. This is almost the last sessions. So, ladies and gentlemen, brother and sisters, addressing the intricate cultural dynamics of language teaching uh, demands a comprehensive strategy that weaves together ethical principles, cultural sensitivity, critical pedagogy, equity, and culturally responsive methodologies. So I believe that by embracing these interconnected themes, educators can cultivate inclusive and empowering language learning environments that equip students to excel in a diverse and interconnected global landscape. So, this rich, multifaceted approach not only boosts language skills but also nurtures a sense of global citizenships and social responsibility in learners. So, enabling them to engage thoughtfully and effectively with the world around them. The last uh, page, the last slide, please. Slide 10, sister. Okay. Thank you very much, brother and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. In conclusions, as we navigate the rich tapestry of cultural complexity in language teaching, let us commit to fostering inclusive and empowering environments that not only enhance linguistic proficiency but also cultivate global citizens. So, together, we can inspire our learners to engage with the world thoughtfully and responsibly transforming challenges into opportunities for growth and for understanding. Thank you, online brother and sister, ladies and gentlemen.